Mark Selby, CEO of Canada Nickel, advancing the Crawford Nickel project, referred last week to the Major Projects Office by the Government of Canada, and unlocking the Timmins Nickel District.
Hello, Mark. I saw the press release. I would love to know more about it and what it actually means and what it kind of converts to. What is the Major Projects Office?
Yeah, so Mark Carney got elected in the spring. We're dealing with a trading partner in the United States who's not as reliable as they once were, and so the Carney government's been very focused on, we need as Canadians to focus on what we're good at, which is oil and gas and critical minerals, and so they've developed this Major Priority Projects Office where they will refer a very small set. The first list was 5 projects, and it's not just mining; it's oil and gas and infrastructure. The first list had two of them of 5 were mining projects, which are already half built, which should give an indication of, okay, they want to get things over the line. This isn't just a paper list that they can publicly talk about. This is about getting projects built. And so the list that we were announced on last Thursday, we were quite lucky that Minister Hodgson, who's the Minister of Natural Resources, ex-Goldman Sachs banker, came out of retirement to end up running and holding this post. He flew up to site, did the announcement there. We had all of the communities, all First Nations, and again went on a site visit. And again, he posted a great video on his Twitter feed in terms of what this project is. I think they want to get these projects built. We're one of 3 mining projects in this list, and so we're having an entire office that's going to be funded by $200 million of government money. And it's all about getting projects built. So we committed in the press conference that we were going to be breaking ground by the end of next year. And so they're publicly committed to help us get there.
So they've been described, I think, as a kind of like a single point of contact to kind of get these kind of big nation building projects built faster. So big, meaningful projects built faster. Can you tell me exactly how they do that? And is it in partnership with other groups, whether it be provincial or federal? I mean, how does it work?
Yeah, so the great thing is this, before, we had very good relationships and in discussions with various government departments that had various envelopes of money, both at the federal level and the provincial level. And that's now going to be focused. So there's Dawn Farrell, who's the head of the Major Projects Office. She delivered a $35 billion pipeline project that had been stalled for a very, very long time and has a great reputation in the oil and gas industry. And my interactions with her have been tremendous. She's a get it done person, and which is very exciting. Yeah, and they're going to be a single point of contact. So for us, we'll work with them to basically of the various federal funding envelopes, two new ones appeared in the last budget. We'll work with them to put that funding package together. She'll work with her colleagues in the Ontario government. So again, multiple envelopes, not quite as many in the province, but she'll work to be able to do that. So we'll have a full funding package. The other key piece of it that's very exciting is, again, as we've talked before, there are funding programs in France and for VIA. Germany has the German Resource Fund. There's 2 Japanese funds. So they will also work, in terms of, coordinating Canadian efforts with those organizations. And again, Japan, Germany, and France don't have a lot of mines. So they're going to turn to countries like us to be able to do that. And being sponsored by the Major Project Office means that, using the sort of Universal Studios or Disney World, we'll have the Express Pass, to get us to the front of the line with those organizations. And then even more exciting is, when you go to the Mideast, right, and to the, groups like Temasek and the big sovereign wealth funds, for them, $100 million is kind of, that's pocket change. They really want to look for $500 million, several billion dollars worth of investment. So the Major Projects Office is going to go out on behalf of their project portfolio and start to develop those relationships, to be able to say to a sovereign wealth fund, say, look at, if you're looking to deploy a couple $2 billion in the critical mineral sector in Canada, guess what? We've got a bunch of vetted projects that the country's firmly behind. Would you like to co-invest with us? So, it's a really, really exciting pivot point that, again, I don't think people really understand what, the full implications of this Major Project Office referral. really means.
It helps in terms of like accessing capital and interested parties,
Yeah.
for sure. They would also need to be really, really clear with those interested parties and funding partners about the kind of the regulatory situation, the governance situation, which are kind of, have long been, I guess, the challenging components with doing business in Canada. So how do they help with those things?
Yeah, so there's two stages to the process. So the first one is the referral. That's what has happened with us. They go through their own process where you can be designated. And so at the end of, they're targeting a 2-year process for that, where you become designated. And the way the legislation is written, they'll just give you a set of operating conditions, and that is effectively all the permits you need. In a case like ours, where we're already well down the path on permitting, we likely won't end up getting designated. That, in the next 13 months before we break ground, we'll be in a position that we're able to deliver on the permits themselves. Now, again, they're setting up all the mechanisms to be able to work with the various, government departments, at the federal level, and as well, within the individual, provincial governments. So yeah, again, as we go through this, I'm sure we'll have a few bumps in the road. But the great thing is the major projects office is there to say, hey, you, and you, we're going to get in a room and we're going to get this solved in 5 minutes. And we're not doing, circulate around the desk games anymore. So, so for us, it's again, it'll just help make that, our ability to get to our, that breaking ground by the end of next year, that much more smoothly. And then we don't have to go into the full, their full process to get there. Going forward, they'll be looking at earlier stage projects, which maybe aren't as far along on the permitting process, and they will, potentially look at, going through the full designation process. But, for us, we need just a little bit of help on the permitting side.
I guess this whole kind of like single point of contact and, I guess, coordinating the kind of local and state permitting regimes to avoid this duplication. Should, like, as you say, fast track. I can't remember the analogy you used earlier.
Fast. Yeah.
Fast pass. We got a fast pass. Are there any other kind of benefits to working with the MPO? Sorry, let's call it the MPO.
Yes, MPO.
We haven't gone too early with that, have we?
MPO is the
Major Projects Office. Good.
Yeah.
And what else they kind of bring to the table in terms of whether it be sort of technically or advisory for you?
It's not on the technical side. Again, not so much. It's really around it's the financing package and the permitting package. Those are the two bits. They're developing their own technical. Like, again, we went through an evaluation process where there's dozens of projects in the country, right? There's probably 15 or 20 late stage critical minerals projects, and they went through a full technical assessment to say, okay, we choose Canada Nickel, we choose Novomont Graphite, and so that they have that. They're not going to necessarily bring that to bear with the projects. They're still expecting the companies to deliver that, but they will be, experts in terms of helping get the financing package together, and experts in terms of helping, work through the permitting process and get those permits in place.
Right. So it's kind of front loaded in terms of the help. The back end is you still got to deliver on that in terms of offtakes and sales and entry into sales contracts yourselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
okay, and what are the other hoops you need to jump through now? I mean, are there any other? Do you need to kind of are they expecting you to deliver further detailed data, or have they done the diligence and now it's all go?
No, they've done their original diligence. If we were going to go through the full designation process, there's another more detailed due diligence process that we go through. But again, at this point, we probably won't need to do that. So right now, it's literally, oh great, execute on the financing plan, right? Go get Samsung to exercise their option. Go work with other players in Japan and Korea if you want to bring someone else to the table, and then our permitting team, it's about just getting those permits in place, to be able to break ground when we want next year.
You've got some strategic partners involved as well. Is there any I guess need for them to kind of prove themselves to the MPO as well, or has the MPO kind of bought into the entire package that you've already formed?
Oh, I think no, they bought into the package that we've formed. Again, I think having the key things, there's 4 criteria: scale, deliverability, First Nations, and clean economy. And so, having a team, that we've got the project this close to get started, and having a team, with a track record, that is, can clearly get there. And then, having a First Nations group as shareholder, plus the other agreements that we have with the other communities in the area, at our press conference, you'll see some footage. We had representatives of every one of the key communities, in the area. I mean, that's the kind of support that we've got. And then lastly, in terms of the whole carbon footprint, you'll see in the video, the minister delivered and the commentary, the Carney, when you have the prime minister of the country talking about the fact that, Crawford is setting a new standard in terms of how responsible mining gets done, is about as high a praise as you can get. And again, for investors out there, in terms of, will this project actually happen, when you have a prime minister who uses words, the kind of words in the speech that he did, you can be certain that he wants to make sure that we deliver on what his statement is saying as coming true.
Well, I think in our experience working with politicians, they move at a pace. They need to be damn sure you're not going to embarrass them, further down the line. So I think it's an endorsement indeed. But not only Mr. Carney, but the Minister of Natural Resources, Tim Hodgson, as well. I saw a video he put out on Twitter. He seems to be excited about what he's seeing as well.
Yeah, and for sure. So, and both for the mining project itself, and in terms of the downstream business, we've talked a lot about both parts of the project, and how both parts really unlock a lot of value. And so, the thing that I was great to me was the fact that Minister Hodgson really did focus on the fact that it's not just a mine, but the fact that we're going to convert it into usable products in a low carbon way, using the carbon storage capacity of Crawford.
Right, and I just want to be clear on this one, because I think using the words like endorsement is pretty strong. If it's true, is it a case of they want all Canadian projects to be successful, and if you kind of enter this process, you're going to get the outcome that you've seen here today? I mean, do they just want to ensure that all Canadian projects are successful, or is it a bit more subtle than that?
No, it's explicit. I mean, they could have easily, and again, governments have a tendency to do that. Okay, we're going to have 25 favorite projects, so we're going to make sure that there's 3 from every province, and right? This is a short focus list. The first list was a short focus list. Again, most of them already half built. They were kind of gimmies for them in terms of being able to say, we helped get them over the line. This next round of projects, were more advanced, but not yet under construction. Again, they selected that very short list of it's mining projects, it's infrastructure, it's oil and gas infrastructure. And so, the focus is on getting this stuff built. That's the whole focus of these efforts. So, if we don't deliver, well, there'll be a disappointment and we'll get in trouble. But they want to set us up, they want to set us up for success. And so, that's the part that, again, I think investors need to realize. It's like, they have loaded us on the train that is leaving the, get the project built station. So
how do you ensure that? I mean, how do you need to set yourselves up internally? Who's going to engage with the MPO on this? Because you've used the phrase, we're looking to break ground at the end of next year. That suggests the financial stack that we've talked about on a few shows should be in place, or at least very good indication of the bulk of it is in place. So who's liaising with who to ensure that timeline?
Yeah, so I'm liaising with Dawn Farrell at the MPO office. Our teams in terms of various focus areas are going to be liaising with the key leads on their team. And again, she's not building an organization of 75 different contacts to do it. It's like there's going to be the finance person, there is the permitting person, and we are going to make sure that we're in sync and we're aligned in terms of this is how we're going to get this project built. And we've already had several conversations, since last Thursday. So, things are moving at pace already, which is fantastic.
Okay, it's really encouraging. I saw some from outside Canada looking in to sort of see this new government, ready to take advantage of, its assets, its natural resource assets. They'll do wonders for the economy, for sure. But for projects like yourself, it's nice to sort of see that endorsement and backing. Timing wise, obviously breaking ground at the end of next year. What are the other things that we're going to be looking at to see that you're going to be delivering in 2026 to get to that end point?
Yeah, so starting from now, you'll see a number of financing announcements, from the different bits and pieces that do, with a view to having the package in place by mid-year. We'll be working down the permitting, so both on the federal side, which we're already well down the path on, and look to get that main permit in the new year, and then the next piece will be there's a bunch of individual provincial permits, which again in Ontario they've announced a new accelerated permitting process, which we're in the process of getting involved in. And again, we're already well down the path, and so you'll see a bunch of permitting milestones as well as we go through 2026, with the goal of construction decision probably sometime in late Q3, Q4, early Q4, with a view of getting shovels in the ground in Q4.
Mark, congratulations on that. And I'm sure we'll talk soon about what's happening in the nickel market. But getting big projects like this funded, important, big step. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, sir.